take us to a moment or two before you actually died and tell us what that death was like and what you experienced?
Sometimes God uses ordinary people to demonstrate his extraordinary love for us, his creation. I went in for open heart surgery, a mitral valve surgery. The valve in my heart was leaking pretty bad. And the surgery, from a human perspective or out of the natural world, they said was successful. I was at the Mayo, and they said, send me up to the ICU. They extubated me and told the family and me, everything went great. You're going to be out of here in 5 or 6 days. You did great. Well, the Lord had a different plan. And it was June 3rd, 2017, and I was in the ICU about 24 hours post-op. And my sister was visiting with me. Beth was having lunch with our youngest son, David, because the family was just believing the medical establishment. Everything's fine. Everything wasn't fine. And it was about 2:10 p.m. on June 3rd, 2017. And I just looked at my sister and I said, could you please get the nurse, please? And in the ICU, many of your audience may know, when you're in the ICU, you have like a nurse right there. So the nurse came in and I said, there's something wrong with me. I said, I'm burning. I'm really hot. I feel like I'm burning head to toe. Help me. And she looked, I was in the telemetry ICU. So she looked at all the markers, all the machines, blood pressure, heart rate, pulse, temperature, oximetry. And she said, he's fine. He's fine. Everything's normal. So in the natural order, I was perfectly fine. She stepped out of the room and she took me, she was out of the room 2 seconds, and all of a sudden I died. Now, I didn't have a heart attack. I had a cardiac arrest, which is even worse because your heart stops. So my sister would say his eye rolled back in his head and he just flopped, and the sirens went off and he's flatlined. So the next thing that happened to me was my soul transcended. My soul separated from my body. And it was the weirdest thing because I looked back on my body briefly and I recognized myself. So what I'm about to share with you and your audience is metaphysical stuff, because we live in the 5 senses. So we process everything we can in the natural world through 5 senses. And then in our finite intellects, we try to put words on them. It's the best we have is words. Because right now, we can't see our souls. Can't touch it, can't smell it. But when it's flipped, and when my soul looked at my body, and I used the term I was allowed to look at my body. And really, I think I was. Because all the medical teams were frantically working on me. And I use the word weird because I had no concern at all about the body. None whatsoever. And I recognized myself, but as I said, didn't have any concern per se. And it was okay. I had peace. And then this glorious white light appears. And I know some people that have had near-death experience talk about a tunnel of light or a round. It was round. It was so bright white and I didn't have a resurrected body. So I would say that if I had retinas, it would burn them right through. Be like looking at the sun. But this was white, pure white light. And it was beckoning me. Use that term. And I will say that, again, in the metaphysical world, I can't describe whether I was pushed into this light or pulled into this light. Front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, gravity. There's no gravity. The word I would use is absorption. Almost like just go right into it. And for me, and I know this is a private revelation, it has nothing to do with the deposit of faith in our church, I understand that, but I'm absolutely convinced what happened to me was I went to heaven. And it's just, I left that room, go into this light, and I get to heaven, and this whole white light just envelops me. It like wraps me, or I'm like standing in this light. And I fall down, like in spirit, and begin worshiping God. And truth be told, I didn't do a very good job of that prior to this. Kind of squeezed God in when I could. And I knew he was the creator. I was the mere creature. I knew exactly who he was. Now, I didn't have vocal cords, okay? God speaks, I'm absolutely convinced, in silence, because we communicated. My worshiping was in spirit. The other words I would use to describe my experience, the unconditional love of God is real. I felt it. Doesn't exist on this planet. I love my wife. She loves me. We can do the best we can. We're imperfect. But the unconditional love of God is real. It exists. The ardor of affection of our God is unbelievable. How much he cares for us. And I'm just being like, I use the word held, but I didn't have a body. It's wrapped in this embrace of love, unconditional love. And I think that's what every human soul longs for, that unconditional love of God. And as I'm being held by this light, I had total peace, total joy. Everything I desired in my life is there. Everything I longed for is there. Another word that I would use to describe this experience is I unequivocally felt I was home. I was home, where I belong. And there's no time or space there. I couldn't tell you, honestly, if I was there a millisecond or 1,000 years. It's just etched on my soul. You know, St. Paul said two things in his writings that are unequivocally true after my experience. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he says it, and he says it twice. I once knew a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. He's talking about himself in the third person, who was caught up into the third heavens, into paradise. So when the Jews believed the third heavens, the top layer was the throne room. And he said, I heard ineffable things that no man may utter, period, he wrote. When I read, I go, he's right. Ineffable, undescribable, can't put words on it. Paul's right. St. Paul's right. Why? I have a finite intellect. And I am absolutely convinced no human being can put words on God or heaven, because God is infinite. His love is infinite. Again, I'm just this 5 inches of gray matter between my ears, trying my best I can. So St. Paul said that. He's right. It's undescribable. The second thing Paul wrote, and I believe this is in 1 Corinthians, when he talks about the love of God, chapter 13, agape love, he writes, then will I know fully, as I am fully known. I read that and I said, bingo. Paul's talking about when he meets the Lord. Because some of the other things I'll share with your audience in heaven is he knows everything. That's a statement I'll make that's a little bit embarrassing for my situation, because God knows everything. And I had to experience that there, because he gave me a review of my life, everything I did that offended him. It's called sin. Wasn't judged. It's almost like, oh, this has occurred. And it wasn't like you let me down. It was just an awareness. It was almost like a quick movie, like imbued into my memory and soul. I knew I did those things. I knew really, but you know, you tend to forget those. You know, I'm okay. Let's move on. He knows everything. It's not an entrance exam when you die. It's an exit interview.
Hey, thanks guys for checking out the Conor Gallagher Show. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, or comment, or whatever you got to do to support it. And I appreciate that very much.